welcome to my second series. I'll be running congruent along the Sod of Sefer Yira, in which we'll be reviewing the entire Zohar, section by section, from the beginning. With that being said, let us begin. This is Zohar, Kabbalah Center version, Book 1. Rabbi Hezekiah opened the discussion with the verse, "As the lily among the thorns," Shir HaShirim, chapter 2, verse 2. He asks, "What is the lily?" And he replies, "It is the congregation of Israel, which is Malchut, because there is a lily, and there is a lily. Just as the lily among the thorns is tinged with red and white, so is the congregation of Israel affected by the qualities of judgment and mercy. Just as the lily has 13 petals, so the congregation of Israel is surrounded by the 13 attributes of mercy. Thus, between the first mention of the name Elohim, which appears in the passage, "In the beginning Elohim created," to the second mention of Elohim, there are 13 words in the verse, which translate as the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and a wind. These words surround and guard the congregation of Israel. Let us enter the sod of the matter. Rabbi Hezekiah, the numerical value, which is the gematria, as each letter has a numerical equivalence, of Hezekiah is 130. Chet is 8, Zain is 7, Kof is 100, Yud is 10, and He is 5. So the numerical value is 130. This is the same numerical value of the Hebrew word ayin, the numerical value of which is also 130. Ayin is 70, Yud is 10, and Nun is 50. Ayin, meaning an eye, is the secret of Arik Einpin, one of the highest Partsufins in the Kabbalah. This eye is made of the upper three Sefirot, which are always together. This referring to Kether, Chokmah, and Bina. Kether corresponds to the white surrounding the eye. Chokmah corresponds to the color of the eye. And Binah corresponds to the black of the eye. Having established Kether, Chokmah, and Bina, it then continues, "As the lily among the thorns, Katib, Keshoshana, Bain, Hachochim." The word lily here is Shoshana, and Shoshana has a numerical value of 661. Shin is 300, Vav is 6, Shin is 300, Nun is 50, and He is 5. 661, when reduced, is 6 plus 6 plus 1, which equals 13. We can identify the identity of the rose in the next two words, Bain, Hachochim, in which by combining Bain plus the first letter of the word the thorns, we have Bina. And Bina is the identity of this rose. He then says, "What is the lily?" Man Shoshana, Da Knesset Israel. This second Shoshana refers to Malchut, which is referred to as Knesset Israel. We've identified the first Shoshana being Hachochim, amongst the thorns as Bina, and the second, which is called Knesset Israel, as Malchut. Vagin da'it Shoshana va'it Shoshana. Because there is a lily and there is a lily. The first lily refers to Bina, and the second lily refers to Malchut, further signified in the fact that it says Ve'it, in which Vav refers to Zerampin and It refers to Malchut. Ma Shoshana. Ma is a name for Malchut, and the numerical value of Ma is 45. Mem is 40 and He is 5. This is the sod of what can I take as a witness to you, referring to Ma, which is Malchut. Similarly, what can I liken to you? Just as the lily among the thorns is tinged with red and white. Being tinged red and white refers to the left and right pillars, respectively. Red being the secret of the left pillar, and white being the secret of the right pillar. The lily among the thorns, which refers to Bina, is tinged with red and white. Red from its own aspect and white from the Chokmah within it. Similarly, bones, which are white, are inside flesh, which is red. And so this rose among the thorns is tinged red and white. So the lily among the thorns, which is Bina, is tinged with red and white. So is the congregation of Israel affected by the qualities of judgment and mercy. Uf Knesset Israel, it be din berekme. Knesset Israel here refers to Malchut, and it is tinged with din, which is a name for Gebura, and mercy, which is chesed when channeled through Tiferet. Therefore, as the rose among the thorns, referring to Bina, is tinged with red and white, so is Knesset Israel, referring to Malchut, contained aspects of judgment and mercy, as is written, is affected by qualities of judgment and mercy. Just as the lily has 13 petals, so the congregation of Israel is surrounded by the 13 attributes of mercy. Thus, between the first mention of the name Elohim, which appears in the passage in reference to Bereshit, and the second mention, there are 13 words. These words surround and guard the congregation of Israel. The 13 words in question are in between the first mention of Elohim and the second mention of Elohim. They refer to Et Hashemayim va'et haaretz v'haaretz hayata tohu v'bohu v'choshek ol fanei tahom v'ruach. It is written that they surround and guard the assembly of Israel. The assembly of Israel is Malchut. And similarly, there are 12 tribes to the assembly of Israel, with one for its totality, making 13. Here, the 13 words, which are Et Hashemayim Ba'et Haaretz Hayata Tohu Babohu Bahoshek Ol Fanei Tahom Barua. These words represent the circular aspect of the Sefirot. The first 10 words refer to the 10 Sefirot of Asiya, that being Kether, Hokmah, Bina, Chesed, Gavura, Tifreth, Netzach, Hod, Yisad, and Malchut. The 10th obviously referring to Keter. The 11th refers to the Keter of Yetzirah. The 12th refers to the Keter of Beriah, and the 13th refers to the Keter of Atzilus. Thus, the 13 words represent all of the Sefirot and all of the worlds. They are presented in their circular aspect, which is likened to a flower, or 13 petals that surround and guard Malkut. Similarly is the Simsum, and the 13 Tikkunim of the beard of Arikainpin, which the 13th being associated with the surrounding aspect of the Kether of Atzilut. And here, Arikainpin is found in the same place. After this, the name Elohim is mentioned another time in the passage. Elohim moved over. And why is it mentioned again? In order to bring out the 5 rigid leaves that surround the lily. And these 5 leaves represent the 5 gates of salvation. And this secret is written about in the verse, I will raise the cup of salvation. Tehillim 1:16-13. This is the cup of benediction that is raised after the meal. The cup of benediction must rest on 5 fingers and no more, just as the lily rests on 5 rigid leaves that represent the 5 fingers, and this lily is the cup of benediction. From the second to the third mention of the name Elohim, there are 5 words, which translate as moved over the surface of the waters and said, and these words parallel the 5 leaves. From this point, the verse continues. Elohim said, let there be light. Bereshit chapter 1 verse 3. After this light was created, it was concealed and enclosed within the covenant that entered the lily and fructified it. This is referred to as a fruit tree yielding fruit, whose seed is in itself, and this seed is the Berit. It then states, after these 13 words, we have 5 words, which here then correspond to Marechvet, El, Panei, Hamayim, Vayomer. And these 5 words bring out 5 rigid leaves. Correspond to 5 rigid leaves. And these 5 rigid leaves are called the gates of salvation. These 5 leaves represent the 5 Partsufim, mainly Arikainpin, Abba, Ima, Zerainpin, and Malkut, or Nukva. These 5 emerge out of these 13. These 13 are the circular aspects of the Sefirot and the worlds. And emerging out of this is the linear aspect, or the partsu theme, called 5 sturdy leaves, referring to Arikainpen, which is Keter, Hokmah, which is Abba, Bina, which is Ima, the lower 6 Sefirot, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yisod, called Zerainpin, and Malkut, called Nukva. These are called the 5 gates of salvation, because the lowest world is called Asiya, and in the highest world is the light called salvation, Yeshua. And this is the secret of, I will lift up the cup of salvation. The cup referring to the vessels, or the kalim, by which these 5 partsufim represent. Furthermore, it's related to a meal, and a meal which refers to meat and milk. Both are in regards to Torah and the drawing down of the upper light that fills those vessels, allowing each of those gates to open. This lily, referring to the one surrounded by 13 petals, is called the cup of benediction, or blessing. And blessing is spelled Beit, Resh, Kaf, Baruch, and refers to Beit, Bina, Resh, Rashon, Hokmah, Kaf, Keter. And that Baruch, or blessing, refers to the upper 3 Sefirot, Keter, Hokmah, and Bina, as stated in the secret of the word Hezekiah. After this light was created, it was concealed and enclosed within the covenant that entered the lily and fructified it. This is referred to as a fruit tree yielding fruit whose seed is in itself, and this seed is the berit. It states here, after the light was created. When we look at the light, the value of et haor is the numerical value of berit, or covenant. And similarly, et haor kaitob, by taking the last letters, the tav from et, the resh from haor, the yud from kai, and the beit from tov, we have barit. And so the Zohar says, after this light was created, and it was concealed and enclosed within inside the covenant. Ve'it kalil, referring to the kalim and the fact that they were inside. In beit, be berit. And we just found in the section regarding the light et haor kaitob, by taking the last letters, found the word barit. Just as the covenant is sown by 42 matings from that same seed, so the engraved and holy name is sown by 42 letters that describe the works of creation. And here, the works of creation, the Bereshit. So let us look at the sod of this situation. The covenant here refers to the aspects in Genesis, mainly the 13 petals and the 5 sturdy leaves. Let us go and see. Thus, between the beit of the word Bereshit and the beit here of the word Bohu, there are exactly 42 letters. And this is called the 42 matings of that seed. And these are Bereshit, Bara, Elohim, Et Hashemayim, Va'et Haaretz. The Haaretz, Hayatar, Tohu, Va. And here's our 42nd letter, Beit. Bereshit refers to Chokmah. Bara refers to Beriah. Elohim is the name of Beriah, so Chokmah, Bina. Et Hashemayim is Zerayin Pin, which refers to Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod. Va'et Haaretz refers to Malchut. And just as the covenant is sown by 42 matings from that same seed, and the word seed here is Zerah, referring to Zerayin Pin, because Bereshit was Chokmah, or Elohim was Bina. Et Hashemayim referred to the 6 aspects of Zerayin Pin, and the Haaretz refers to Malchut, which is called the Malchut of Zerayin Pin. So the engraved and holy name refers to Yod-He Vav-He, is sown by the 42 letters that describe the works of creation, referring to Bereshit. The 72 letter name of Hashem corresponds to the world of Atzilus, which is Chokmah. Similarly, Chokmah is the secret of the word Bereshit. This is why it said it described the workings of creation, or Bereshit. And the 42 refer to the fact that the holy supernal name, Yod-He Vav-He, expands into the 72 letter name, the secret of Chokmah and Atzilus. Similarly, when it is expanded, the combined number of letters equals 42. And so it states there that the holy name, being Yod-He Vav-He, was sown with 42 engravings that describe Bereshit, or the world of Atzilut, being Yod-He Vav-He corresponding to Keter of Chokmah, the expanded 72 referring to the Chokmah, and the fully expanded referring to its Bina, and the secret of Hezekiah, and the secret of Ayin, as it stated in the beginning of the Parsha, to allude that these 3 aspects, mainly Kether, Chokmah, Bina, 3 parts of the eye, would be the tikkun for the respective passage. With that being said, in our next episode, we will be discussing part 2, the flower buds. If you'd like to support, I'll leave links all down below, as well as a free PDF copy to Sefer Yira and a way to obtain a physical copy. Shalom, Selah.